Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, Treasure Seekers, and Coin Lovers. If you've ever wondered whether that old penny sitting in a jar could actually be worth something, today's video will definitely surprise you. We're talking about a small, brown coin that you might easily overlook, but it could be hiding serious value. Yes, we're diving deep into the story of the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny from the United States of America. Now, you've probably seen a penny or two with Abraham Lincoln's face on it. They're everywhere. But what makes the 1953 wheat penny stand out? It's not just its age, it's the history behind it, the symbolism in its design, and most importantly, its potential worth if you've got the right one. Let's start with a little background. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series began way back in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait, breaking from the tradition of using symbolic figures like Lady Liberty. The wheat ears on the reverse side were meant to represent prosperity and strength, very fitting for a country that had just come through some major growing pains at the turn of the century. Fast forward to 1953. The United States was in the post-war boom. President Eisenhower was in office, families were moving to the suburbs, and Elvis Presley was getting ready to rock the world. At the same time, millions of pennies were rolling off the presses, but among them, a few were made differently, struck with rare errors or preserved in such flawless condition that they became valuable collector's items decades later. The typical 1953 Lincoln wheat penny features Lincoln's right-facing profile on the front, with the words, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1953, on the right. On the reverse side, you'll see two stylized wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, with De Pluribus Unum, curved along the top. But here's where it gets exciting, not every 1953 wheat penny is the same. There were three main mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can tell which mint your coin came from by looking for the small letter under the date. No letter means Philadelphia, a small d means Denver, and an S stands for San Francisco. While these coins were mass-produced, most were used in daily transactions, jingling in pockets, passed hand to hand, worn down by years of circulation. But a handful, just a tiny fraction, were either struck with minting errors or somehow preserved in absolutely perfect condition. And that's where the value lies. Let's talk about what makes one of these coins valuable. First, condition is everything. In the coin world, we use a grading scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. A 1953 Lincoln wheat penny that scores even close to that top grade is extremely rare. If your coin is bright, sharp, and looks brand new even after more than 70 years, that's the kind of penny collectors will pay big money for. Then, there are minting errors. Maybe the coin was struck off-center. Maybe it was double-stamped. Or maybe there's a planchet flaw, a problem with the metal blank before it was even turned into a coin. These errors make a coin unique, and uniqueness drives up value. Collectors go wild for these one-of-a-kind mistakes because they tell a story about the mint, about the production process, and about how a tiny slip-up turned an ordinary penny into a highly sought-after treasure. Now, imagine finding one of these rare 1953 pennies with a minting error in almost perfect condition. What could it be worth? Well, you've waited patiently, and now here's the moment you've been waiting for. If you happen to own a 1953 Lincoln wheat penny that's in pristine, uncirculated condition, possibly with a rare mint error and verified by a professional grading service, it could be worth as much as $75,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, one that might be sitting forgotten in a drawer or old coin jar, could be worth $75,000 today. So, if you're into collecting or you just want to see if your old change is hiding something special, go check your pennies. Look for that 1953 date, check for a mint mark, inspect its condition, and if it looks like a standout, it might be time to have it appraised. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the most iconic coins in American history, the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny. It's a tiny copper piece that holds a massive story, and for the lucky few who own a rare version in flawless condition, it might just be a ticket to an unexpected fortune. So grab your old change jar, settle in, and let's uncover the incredible secrets hidden behind the 1941 1-cent coin from the United States of America. Let's rewind the clock to 1941. The world was on the brink of chaos. World War II was escalating, but the United States had not yet entered the war. Americans were facing the last few years of the Great Depression, and a spirit of resilience was everywhere, from city streets to rural towns. During this time, pennies weren't just coins. They were part of daily survival. A few cents could buy a loaf of bread or a handful of candy for a child. But some of these humble coins, like the Lincoln Wheat penny minted in 1941, were destined for more than just pocket change. This coin, part of the legendary Lincoln Wheat series, was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the penny became the first U.S. coin to feature the face of a real person instead of a symbolic figure. On one side, you have Lincoln's solemn profile, a tribute to honesty and leadership. On the other side, you'll find two wheat stalks curved around the words, 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto, E pluribus unum, arched above. These stalks represent growth, abundance, and the hard-working spirit of the American people. Now, what sets the 1941 version apart? In that year, the U.S. Mint struck over 1 billion wheat pennies. Yes, you heard that right, billion with a B. That might make you think this coin is common and not worth much. But here's the twist: not all pennies are created equal. Among those billions, a very small number were struck in error, made with uncommon dies, or preserved in such perfect condition that they've become extraordinary treasures today. Coins were minted in 3 locations that year: Philadelphia, which produced the bulk and didn't include a mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d beneath the date; and San Francisco, identified with an S. If you've got a 1941 wheat penny with a D or S mint mark in stunning condition, or even better, a coin with a striking mistake like a double die or off-center strike, you could be holding a serious collector's item. So what makes a coin from 1941 valuable enough to set collector hearts racing? It all comes down to rarity, condition, and uniqueness. A coin that escaped the wear and tear of daily circulation, one that looks like it was just struck yesterday, is exceptionally rare. If the coin has crisp detail, rich color, and 0 blemishes, it can score high on the numismatic grading scale. Combine that with a rare minting error, such as doubling of the date or lettering, a clipped planchet, or a misaligned strike, and suddenly, you've got something far beyond a simple penny. Collectors and investors search endlessly for these rare finds, often competing at auctions to secure a piece of history. And while the average circulated 1941 penny might fetch $1 or $2, those high-grade, uncirculated specimens, especially with unique minting flaws, can reach unbelievable heights in value. And here's the most exciting part of today's video. The real reason you're here. If you happen to own a 1941 Lincoln Wheat penny in absolutely pristine, mint state condition, possibly with a rare die error or double strike verified by professional grading authorities, its value could soar as high as $81,000. Yes, that's right. $81,000. For a single, 1-cent coin. Imagine finding a fortune in a forgotten drawer or hidden in your grandparents' coin collection. It's not just a dream, these stories happen more often than you'd think. That's why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a hunt. A hunt for lost value, for hidden history, and for the chance to hold something truly special. So go ahead, check your change jars, old wallets, and family keepsake boxes. Look for the date 1941, study the mint mark, inspect the coin's surface carefully, and if it looks perfect or unusual in any way, don't ignore it. It could be one of the rare few. Today, we're going deep into the story of a coin that many people overlook, yet it could be worth a small fortune. That's right, we're talking about the 1954 Lincoln Wheat penny from the United States of America. It's more than just a copper coin, it's a relic of American history, a masterpiece of minting, and in some rare cases, a life-changing discovery. If you've got one of these in your collection, this might just be the video that turns your curiosity into cash. Let's start by stepping back into the world of 1954. America was thriving in the post-World War II boom. Families were growing, cities were expanding, and the economy was shifting into high gear. It was a time of hope, innovation, and prosperity. Yet despite all this change, the humble 1-cent coin still carried the same familiar face, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, looking ahead with a calm, determined gaze. The Lincoln wheat penny had been in circulation since 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Designed by the talented Victor David Brenner, the coin quickly became a national icon. And in 1954, the U.S. Mint continued to strike these coins using the same proud design. The obverse shows Lincoln's portrait with the date on the right and the word "Liberty" on the left. Above his head sits the timeless motto, "In God We Trust." Flip it over, and you're greeted by two graceful wheat stalks hugging the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. Just above, the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, ties the whole design together. It's a message of unity, of collective strength, and of the American spirit. But what makes the 1954 version of this coin so special? For one, it was one of the final years of the wheat penny design. Just 5 years later, in 1959, the U.S. Mint would replace the wheat ears with the Lincoln Memorial, forever changing the reverse side of the penny. That makes these later wheat pennies, especially those in excellent condition, highly collectible. In 1954, these pennies were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, which had no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small D, and San Francisco, marked with an S. Each mint produced millions of coins, but not all of them were created equal. Some 1954 pennies were struck with minor errors that went unnoticed at the time. These include double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and even clipped planchets. At the time, these coins simply went into circulation like all the rest. But today, error coins like these are prized by collectors for their rarity and uniqueness. What's more, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. Most pennies from 1954 were used in everyday life, buying gum, paying bus fare, or tossed into penny jars. As a result, they picked up scratches, dings, and discoloration. But a very small number were preserved, untouched, in brilliant uncirculated condition. These are the true treasures. A coin in mint state, especially one that has been graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, can command serious attention. The better the condition, the more dramatic the price jump. If the coin has full original luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear, it becomes a rare gem in the eyes of collectors. Now, let's talk about variants. Some 1954 Lincoln wheat pennies feature repunched mint marks, where the mint mark was struck more than once, causing a blurry or doubled effect. Others have subtle doubling on the date or lettering. These small errors can go unnoticed by the untrained eye, but to an experienced collector or appraiser, they signal potential value far beyond the coin's face worth. And here's where it gets really exciting. Imagine discovering that the old penny tucked away in your drawer, the one you haven't looked at in years, is not just a coin, but a collector's dream. A perfect 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, preserved in mint condition and possibly featuring a rare minting error, could be worth as much as $71,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $71,000 for a single copper penny. That's the kind of story that keeps coin hunters searching, collectors analyzing, and everyday people checking their change. The 1954 wheat penny isn't just currency, it's a window into the past, a symbol of craftsmanship, and for a lucky few, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So if you've got one of these coins, take a closer look. Examine the date, inspect the mint mark, check the condition. You might just be holding onto something extraordinary. Today, we're shining a spotlight on one of the most underrated yet historically rich coins ever struck in the United States, the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny. This tiny copper coin may seem ordinary at first glance, but it holds stories of American resilience, craftsmanship, and in some rare cases, life-changing value. Yes, you heard that right. If you have one of these in your possession, this might just be the most exciting discovery you've made this year. So grab your coin jars, dust off those old penny albums, and stay with us as we reveal the secrets, history, and hidden worth of the 1950 Lincoln wheat cent. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1950. America had just emerged from the shadows of World War II and was stepping confidently into a new era. Soldiers had returned home, families were growing, industries were booming, and the American dream was in full swing. In this backdrop of hope and progress, the United States Mint continued its work, quietly producing millions of coins for everyday transactions. Among these was the unassuming 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that millions of Americans would handle in grocery stores, gas stations, and lunch counters. But while most of these pennies would go on to live ordinary lives, a few were destined for something far more special. The design of the 1950 wheat penny remains iconic. On the front, or obverse, we see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, gazing calmly to the right. Just beside him is the word Liberty, and to the right of the portrait, the year, 1950. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," a motto that had long become part of America's identity. On the reverse, the coin displays two elegant wheat stalks curving along the edges. This is where the term wheat penny comes from. Between the stalks, we see the bold declaration, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, just above, which means, out of many, one. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 1950 wheat penny was struck at 3 different mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark. Denver pennies are marked with a small D beneath the date, and San Francisco coins bear an S. All 3 versions are collectible, but their values can vary wildly based on 2 things: condition and rarity. Millions of these coins were produced, but only a tiny fraction were preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition. Over the decades, most 1950 pennies were tossed into pockets, passed through thousands of hands, scraped along countertops, and eventually forgotten in drawers and jars. But for a lucky few, untouched and perfectly struck coins survived, some protected in mint sets, others forgotten in collections for decades. Collectors are always on the hunt for high-grade specimens, especially those graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. A 1950 wheat penny in mint state, showing its original copper-red luster with sharp detail and no signs of wear, is a rare and desirable find. But that's not all. There are also special varieties and errors from the 1950 mintings that make certain coins stand out even more. These include double die obverse, where parts of the design are slightly doubled, repunched mint marks, where the mint mark was struck more than once at slightly different angles, and even off-center strikes. These types of errors are not only fascinating but extremely valuable to the right collector. A common coin becomes uncommon when you factor in these kinds of anomalies. And suddenly, a penny you might have spent on candy in the 1950s turns into a coin worth hunting for today. Let's not forget, the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny is part of the final decade before the wheat design was retired in 1958. That historical cutoff gives these later wheat pennies an extra level of desirability. They mark the end of a beautiful chapter in American coin design. So the next time you come across a 1950 wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Examine it closely. Check the mint mark, look for any signs of doubling or striking errors, and pay attention to its condition. Because while most of these coins are only worth a few cents, the rarest and most perfect ones are worth far more. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. You might be wondering, what's the highest value this humble penny has ever sold for? Well, believe it or not, one pristine 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, in exceptional condition and certified by experts, has fetched an astonishing total of $77,000, yes, $77,000, for a 1-cent coin. So, keep your eyes peeled, search your old jars, and never underestimate the value of a penny. Because in the world of coin collecting, history and fortune can be hiding in plain sight. Today, we're talking about a small piece of copper that might just be hiding in your home, the 1957 Lincoln wheat penny from the United States of America. It's just 1 cent in face value, but this humble little coin has a rich story behind it, and in extremely rare cases, a value that can absolutely blow your mind. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn why this old penny could be worth far more than you'd expect. Let's begin by going back to the year 1957. The world was changing fast. America was thriving in the post-war boom. Elvis Presley had become a national sensation. The space race was heating up. Television was finding its way into every living room, and in that exciting era of American history, the U.S. Mint was busy producing coins for a growing economy. Among the coins struck that year was one that most people wouldn't give a second glance to, the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny. But what makes this coin special? And why are collectors and investors still hunting for it more than 6 decades later? Let's start with the design. The obverse side of the coin features the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His portrait is clean, strong, and instantly recognizable. Just to the left of Lincoln is the word Liberty, and to the right is the year, 1957. Hovering above the president's head are the timeless words, "In God We Trust." On the reverse, you'll see 2 sheaves of wheat curling inward from each side, a design that gives the coin its popular nickname, the Wheat Penny. Between the stalks are the inscriptions, 1 cent, United States of America, and the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This coin was produced at 2 mint locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia version has no mint mark under the date, while the Denver coins are marked with a small d. While both are widely collected, certain conditions and errors make some of them extremely valuable. Let's talk mintage. The U.S. Mint produced over 1 billion of these pennies in 1957. Yes, you heard that right, over 1 billion. So naturally, most people assume that because it's common, it can't possibly be worth much. But here's the twist: condition, rarity, and minting errors can turn an ordinary penny into something truly extraordinary. Now imagine this: out of that billion, only a tiny number survived in untouched, uncirculated condition. We're talking about coins that were never spent, never dropped in a jar, never scraped or scuffed, just pristine copper cents that still shine with their original luster. These are the ones collectors crave. Even more exciting are the rare mint errors. Some 1957 wheat pennies have what's known as a double die error, where the letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the striking process. Others might have off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or repunched mint marks, mistakes that are highly desirable among error coin collectors. And here's something most people don't know. In the world of numismatics, small imperfections or oddities often make a coin more valuable, not less. It's the unusual coins, the ones with quirks and surprises, that often fetch the highest prices at auctions. For example, one 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny that was preserved in mint state with a dramatic error sold for a truly staggering amount. But before we reveal just how high that number goes, let's appreciate one more reason this coin is beloved. 1957 was one of the final years of the Wheat Penny series. Just 1 year later, in 1958, the U.S. Mint would retire the wheat reverse and replace it with the now familiar Lincoln Memorial design. That makes the 1957 edition part of the last wave of a beloved American coin era. What does that mean for collectors today? It means that 1957 wheat pennies, especially the ones in brilliant uncirculated condition or with rare striking errors, are incredibly sought after. They carry history, beauty, and in some rare cases, a shocking monetary value, which brings us to the question you've all been waiting for: what is the most a 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny has ever sold for? Believe it or not, one exceptional coin, flawless in condition, shining with original red luster, and authenticated by a top grading service, was sold for an incredible $73,000. Yes, $73,000, for a 1-cent coin. So next time you come across a 1957 penny in your change or tucked away in a coin collection, take a closer look. It could be a common coin, or it could be a hidden treasure. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss another incredible coin story. There are more hidden gems out there waiting to be discovered, and you might be holding one right now. Stay curious, keep collecting, and we'll see you in the next video.